I will start recording now. All right, so welcome to the regular OpenJ9 hangout. Reminders for everybody to please pull up the minutes so we can follow along as we work our way through them, and to add your name and affiliation to the minutes so we know who's been joining the meetings. All right, so if we start with the first item we have on the list, it's been tracking the OpenJ9 issues. The action is for Jonathan and Irina to track this and keep them up to date. I'm just wondering, Jonathan isn't on the line. Irina, have you had discussions with Jonathan about taking this over?
No, I should have, but I haven't, so I'll get it done for next week.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'm not aware of any major issues that are open in here, and I haven't been monitoring these numbers otherwise, so I don't have any extra update here. Does anybody else want to call out anything?
All I can tell you is there's 3 new ones, 3 new user-raised issues.
Well, let's move on then to the release mechanics. We are now coming up on the 0.8 release, as we've been coming up on it for entirely too long. So at this point, I have created the initial 0.8 branch and the RC1 tag on that branch. There are a number of at least one issue we were waiting for. Just opening that now to see if we've merged it yet.
It's merged.
It's merged?
Or which one are you talking about, OMR?
I'm looking at pull request 2349, the fix XLC compiler issue on Linux and AIX. Somebody has put in the minutes that that might be blocking the release of, or the creation of the release candidate 2, and that doesn't appear to have been merged yet.
Yeah, and I think there was another problem too, maybe only related to ZOS, which, so maybe not important for this release of OpenJ9, but I think there's another pull request that was recently opened to fix that.
All right. For release candidate 2, I will take the current branch and update it from the next nightly build that we've had that's passed, and retag that as RC2. Does anybody see any concerns or problems with that approach? Hopefully we'll be able to do that. I'm hoping to be able to do that tomorrow morning, taking the build from tonight. Are there any concerns with that? Okay, I'm not hearing any response to that, so I'm going to assume that that is plan of record and we should be good to go on that. All right. All right, machines. So looking at the list of machines that we have here, I know that we've been looking at or talking about being able to get machines from UNB, and I see Charlie's here. Is there any update you can give on that, Charlie?
Right now, I'm still working on getting access to through VPN to the machines at the University of New Brunswick. I have an account and things. I'm not sure. It looks like maybe my version of Open Connect I'm using on OS X is not working, so I'll probably stop trying to work from my laptop and go right directly from our machines. If I get that going, I should be able to test out one of their machines for builds end of this week, early next week is really my hope, to have at least one hooked up to our either the OpenJ9 or the OMR Jenkins instance, just to actually be able to test things. once we get that going, we're going to see about how many images we can get from there. To start out, it'll be all Linux x86 machines. After that, we are also looking into a way to have other types of x86 hardware available there. So next online after that would probably be some Windows and OS X machines. So that would pretty much give us complete coverage there, at least on X. Hopefully we can have that on. My stretch goal at this point is to have the other hardware and things available by end of April, maybe May. So the safe bet's probably May. Also looking at the possibility of having Raspberry Pis there as well, or some sort of ARM hardware. I have more meetings again actually this afternoon to discuss a lot more of this and to really see what kind of space we have there and things for how much hardware could actually land there. I don't want to show up and say I have a tractor trailer truckload of hardware and then they don't have room for it. I don't know if I have that much, but I just want to get a full estimate on all the details before we go too far. I should have a very comprehensive update on this type of information for the meeting next week.
All right, thanks, Charlie.
No problem.
So sorry. So once if we can get to the point where we have Linux x86, Windows, and was there? Sorry, bad memory. Was Mac OS in the list there anywhere?
Yes.
Okay. So once we have all those, then I guess at that point we can consider moving away from Travis and AppBayer as the.
Correct. Yep.
Cool. Very good.
It just really helps us be able to have like one single way to control the pull request. So I think it's really good.
Yep. Yep. No, I like it. It's very good. Thank you.
All right. And then in terms of the AIX machines, is Joe or anybody who's been involved with that on the call? Don't see them.
I know they have had some issues with the. Shelley's been hooking them up with some experimental images there, some sort of temporary images with different numbers of virtual CPUs and different operating systems and different temp space allocations to try and get to a configuration that we're happy with, but I don't think we're quite there yet. And once we settle on that, then we can we can start talking about having them actually added to the CI farm.
The latest email I saw, they seem to have settled on two virtual CPUs, and they're trying to make a copy of the one machine that's working and make multiple versions of it, multiple copies of it.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Sorry, Peter, you said two virtual CPU, and what was the rest of the config?
It's two CPUs with 4-way SMT.
And they have one machine set up and working, and then making a clone of that, so we have multiple machines that are the same.
So that's good news. All right. Are there any other discussions on machines that we want to do right now? Sue, I think we're picking up some background noise. All right. Did anybody else want to bring anything up around machines? All right. Okay, moving on to end user experience then. Mark, do you want to give an update in this area? Mark, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Apologies. Thank you. So I don't have a very substantial update. I put a comment into one of the issues that was opened very early on with the Eclipse OpenJ9 that was looking into some performance issues that we had with comparing against Zulu that were resolved in in a good way. But it was probably about 5 months ago now. Well, I guess the last comment was only a couple of months ago. But so anyway, I put a comment in there with an mention to the originator asking him if he would be willing to tell us more about how his experience is currently, whether he's still using it or if they're, and if he's still happy. If he's not happy, maybe explain some of the reasons. But I only did that yesterday, so it's a little bit short notice. So he hasn't responded. I guess we'll see over the next week if he's interested and contacts us back. The reason why I picked him is just because he opened a bunch of issues on a bunch of comparisons, and we ended up resolving, I think, pretty much all the issues that he had. And he did kind of go out on Reddit at one point and post and ask people, tell people they should be trying out OpenJ9. So he seemed like a fairly motivated person. So I was hoping that we'd be able to entice him to show up, but I guess not, since I don't see him on the on the Zoom. But hopefully we'll be able to entice him to join later, or if not, at least to tell us a little bit more about how things are going for him, and then we can report that here. I'll report that here. We can talk through it.
Okay. Are there any of the items on the are there any of the items on the user experience label list that that anyone thinks we should be discussing today, or that need more attention?
There is the Filipino translation offer. Wondering about our ability to take a bunch of translations that nobody can actually read. Anybody had thoughts on that? Should we just accept them, or what do we do?
Did you see my note? Did you see the note I added to that issue, Peter?
No, well, you mentioned OpenJDK or some other project, I think.
Yeah, so Adopt OpenJDK has an effort for translating their website, and how they do it is they use Google Translate and then ask contributors that are of the native languages that they have translations for to review them. So there's the initial translation that's done by Google Translate, and then contributors review those. So you have two people, not just random folks saying, yeah, use this word for this. And they've had people contribute updates to what Google Translate gives you, because for technical stuff, it's not always ideal translation. So I think that guards against the worry that you have, which is valid.
Well, you don't know, even when they correct the translations done by Google Translate, you don't know what they're correcting them to say.
Yeah, but you can then take that word that they've translated and plow it back into Google Translate. So there is a mechanism to check. Short of that, you'd need what? At what point are you confident? Do you then get 2 contributors that speak a language, and then, or 10, and say one of them must not be fooling us? I think a translate tool plus a live person is probably the reasonable effort.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we want to make this too hard. It's a very generous offer for this person to show up and offer to do the translation. So I think we should try to find a way to leverage that.
Yeah.
And assume that they're doing the right thing as much as possible. Do our due diligence, obviously, but.
Yeah, running everything through Google Translate and seeing what comes out in English sounds like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good idea.
Okay.
For end user experience as well, I guess I haven't looked at the list of things that are labels of issues that are tagged that, but I do want to say that I've had a recent win, I think, with the test user experience. As you probably have seen, James Kingdon though he's internal to us, has been using the test material at Adopt, and then wanted to run the tests from OpenJ9. And because the interface to those tests are the same, it's very easy for him to do that. And now he'll start running the JCK material, and we've made that interface the same as well. So the onboarding for people to run tests, developers to run tests, is a lot faster than it ever used to be. And thanks, Dan, for suggesting that he does run JCKs on his R build.
Happy to help out there. So I'm looking forward to having ARM being one of our fully supported platforms. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, it's discussions around the next release after 0.8. I will admit to being remiss on my action to look for or ask contributors for sort of their 3-month plan. I'm aiming to have this done for the next meeting. So I have no update on this particular piece. Does anybody else have anything they wish to bring up? All right.
I guess I'll add, we're having the conversation about what tests are being run against the 0.8 release. We are running OpenJDK regression tests. They're not all clean. I don't think this should block that release because we hadn't been running those against any builds previously. But for the next release after 0.8, I think one of the test goals is to make sure that we have as much of that set that is applicable running against OpenJ9 and running green.
So what if some things can't be fixed? Do we then exclude those tests?
Yes. So when I say run the tests that are applicable, I think that's true. There are 3 categories, right? There are the tests that shouldn't ever be run against OpenJ9 because they're likely hotspot specific. That includes the hotspot tests themselves, plus some management tests, and a bunch. We should need to identify the full list that's not applicable. 2, it could be a real issue, in which case we should attempt to fix those. Otherwise, we exclude them while the fix is being worked. Or 3, it's a test issue where the test isn't running properly. But that 3rd category, I don't think there'll be many tests in that category because we're already running the set against OpenJDK, and we know that we have a healthy set of tests. They run well against that implementation. So to have tester setup or configuration issues is less likely.
Yeah. So
you're looking at what? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know that we can guarantee that all the issues will be fixed, but we could say that we will have issues created and we'll try to address them in a priority order and try to have the highest priority fixes done for the next release.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just replying to, I think, Irina's note, and I'm stating that same thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are there issues open already for some of these issues, or are those the JDK underscore?
Yes, those are those. Yeah.
Right.
But of the ones reported in those issues, the JDK underscore issues, likely there are some tests in there that filter off into not applicable for us. And some would be real issues, and some would be, this looks like the machine tanked or had a connection problem or something. So we still have to.
Okay, so there's a classification problem that has to happen first, or step.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
All right. So as I look at our attendee list, I see that we're all still from IBM. So the next item on our list is how to better advertise the call. I was able to regain access to the OpenJ9 Twitter account, and I tweeted that last week. I didn't do it again this week. But are there other ideas on ways to be driving interest and attendance to this call?
think getting at a usable release would drive interest.
And I think finding a purpose, a reason for people to join the call is maybe, like, awareness isn't enough, I guess. It seems like if we had a reason for people to join, something that they would get out of joining, and maybe having the release is something that drives that naturally. I don't know, but if there are other ways that we can do that, it might be good. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but something to think about. Does anyone have any ideas?
Well, I kind of think this is also the same note as driving people to the project itself, which is what you're saying by saying awareness isn't enough. Having people interested in one or two aspects of the project will get them more involved in the meetings. So that speaks to some additional collateral and, tutorials, articles, talks, that kind of thing. I know that the initial performance articles that went out drove a lot of interest to OpenJ9. I think we have on the list of the GC plan to provide some additional information around that component, but I think we want to look at, what other things can happen, what other technical learnings or sharing we can do to drive more people here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. As you were talking, it made a lot of sense to me that maybe the problem is that the purpose of this meeting is mostly to discuss things about the OpenJ9 project, and for now that's mostly IBMers, and so that's why IBMers are the only ones attending. But if we could make it a more educational, like we could have maybe we could schedule some short presentations about like here's how to use X shared classes, just a couple of a relatively short section. I'm sure they can explaining how to you some of the features of OpenJ9 that that people are interested in, right? So shared classes. We get Mary or Sarai to talk about AOT a little bit, maybe. Most like just kind of little short tidbits. I don't know that they necessarily have to be part of this meeting. Like maybe we want another meeting. I don't know to do that, but
maybe we could make more use of the blogging area on the website and then tweet those out, do some short articles on there. We actually do have some more performance data that's come through from Marius and VJ around OpenJDK, but that's yet to make it to the website.
Do we have articles already at the blog, Sue?
There's a performance page which talks about some of the kind of cloud startup and footprint performance information, but that's been around for a while now, and I think it was used even back as far as Java 1. But we have this article coming, or this opportunity to put an article into the Eclipse newsletter, which most people have probably seen sort of gradually being developed. I think there's a good opportunity there to drive people to virtual meetup, the VCN, and from there on to this meeting, we get it right. In fact, this week I need to go back to the editor and talk to them a bit about the areas we're going to cover. So aside from this meeting, I think we've kind of collected together the areas that we're going to talk about, and if everybody's agreed with that, then I'll get that through to them so that we can start that discussion.
If the goal is to widen the participation in this meeting, then I think Mark's suggestion of doing an educational tasters at it is going to help. If all we say is we'll do education session on some other meeting, that's not really going to help with the goal of getting more people than just
that's true. But I guess the goal probably shouldn't be to get people specifically to attend this meeting, but more to drive more interaction between us and other other people who might be using OpenJ9. But yeah, I agree with your statement.
I really like the idea of these small technical sharing videos or presentations. We actually have one that should be ready to share in the next few days on testing. I was going to put it up at the Adopt OpenJDK blog. I didn't realize we actually had an area on the OpenJ9 website to do it. So maybe I'll get some of you to review what we have and see if it actually talks about OpenJ9 tests, so it would be applicable to either.
Cool.
And then, yeah, we could maybe start a little series of blog entries that tie to short YouTube presentations. That's the format we have been using. And have people at least take a look at that and try to drive interest in that additional 5-minute, 10-minute, like.
Right. Yeah, no, I think the test topic is actually a really apropos one, right? Because we're doing a release right now. So people might be interested to know, what does it mean? Like the same question you just asked, right? What does it mean to test OpenJ9 for a release?
Shelley, can I tag you with an action item on that to?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Is anything further on that topic? All right. And I am still remiss on adding the static page to describe the labels. My apologies there again. It just hasn't happened yet. I'll aim to have that done for the next hangout. Is there any other business that anybody wants to discuss today?
Are those items that you added to the any other business section, or those people that are there people who added those to the list to discuss?
I believe those were copied forward from previous weeks. I'm not sure the status of those particular items are or who added them. It might be a good idea to add your name to something if there's a particular topic that you want to discuss out of that any other business item when adding them. The people who added them, are they on the call right now? Is there something in these particular areas we should be discussing?
I added the one about creation of Linux packages, so that's just there as a reminder that's something we should look into down the road.
I remember I touched a little bit on the PPA stuff of like right back when we open sourced, maybe early October-ish. I looked a little bit into PPAs, but I didn't really make any progress on it, and it fell off my radar. So, but we should be getting back to that sort of stuff. I agree.
I'm actually going to take that and move that up into the into the next release section.
Yeah.
So that it's something we continue to track as being part of the things we need to look at for the next release.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. All right. And then as we are rapidly running up on our time limit for these calls, if there's nothing else that we need to discuss right now, then I will call it, and the next meeting will be in a week on Wednesday at 11 EST. So one last chance to call anything up if they want. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.